Gukesh had started FIDE Grand Swiss with 2 wins and 2 draws, and in the fifth round he faced Abhimanyu Mishra, the youngest grandmaster in the world. He holds the record. So the game was exciting. E4, E5, knight out, and we have an Italian. And Bishop G5 leads to a very interesting position. Before castling, when Bishop G5 comes, you can go H6 and G5 and gain space on the king side. That's what Gugesh does. A6, castles, Bishop D6, C3, Bishop A7, Knight D2, and now G5. Bishop G3. So from here, the game just explodes. Gugesh goes for Knight H7, preparing H5, H4 fast. This pawn gets defended by the queen and the knight. That's the idea. Pawn d4, h5, and here comes d takes e5 by Abhimanyu Mishra. All preparation, I believe. So he's allowing h4, which will trap his bishop. But before that happens, he gets a pawn. Here, Gugesh does not go for the h4 move. He goes for g4. H4 would have led to this takes, takes, and queen h5. Gugesh will have to defend, and then bishop will take, queen will have to come here, a sad place, but it was still okay. The queen gets to be active. It was an equal position. The game keeps going. There is still pressure, but Gugesh was fine here. But he did not want to go into this preparation from Abhimanyu. So it's understandable he did not go for h4, but g4 gives him a bad position. The idea is here Abhimanyu goes for, after g4, he goes for takes, sacrificing the piece, but he's up 2 pawns now, and he'll get this. So basically, he'll have 4 pawns for black, and white will have 7 pawns. So it's going to be an interesting game. Queen e7 takes, so 3 pawns for the piece. Actually, 4 pawns, including this one, but this might get picked up with bishop b6, rook c8. Bishop g4, h3, bishop comes back. So position is now great for Abhimanyu. It's winning. Bishop d6, queen d7, takes, takes, and e5. So very stable bishop over here, and the pawn is still alive, and everything looks great for Abhimanyu. And here he had to just keep the tension with b4, a4, or king h1. Any normal quiet move would do, but he went for after king d7, which is with the idea of playing king c8 and keep the king safe. He played knight d4, and this allowed Gugesh to get back equality. Takes, takes, and queen d5, stopping the pawn from going forward. Almost equality. Queen takes h5 and knight f6. This is probably the move that Abhimanyu had missed. Now the knight comes to a great place, maybe here or here. The pawn can't take it because it's pinned. I mean, and the queen is attacked. So queen goes to f5 with a check, and queen e6 blocks. Takes, takes, and you can't take here because the bishop falls. So that's the whole point. So we have an endgame with still Gugesh being a piece up, but for 3 pawns. Is it three or 4 pawns? Actually, 5 pawns. 5 pawns for the piece. So it looks scary, but the pawns are not that easy to roll down, right? The knight has got good squares, and the rook will probably become active fast. So it's a close game. And now knight d5, f5. Abhimanyu activates his rook. He loses 1 pawn there. Rook comes in, king e6. The other rook comes in. Looks very scary for Gugesh. Rook g8, g4, knight b5, because you got to target that bishop. It's too strong. How do you defend this? F6 square is defended, so there is no rook f6. E7 is defended. So it looks like Gugesh has got everything under control, but these pawns are now going to come down. It's going to start rolling, the double connected pass pawns. Here, rook h7. And Gugesh now plays rook g6, act- trying to activate his knight. And that seems to give white an advantage. But Abhimanyu did not go for it. The advantage would have been if he played rook to d1. What is the idea? It's not clear why rook d1. Probably to stop the knight from moving because the rook will become active. But he could directly play rook f7, right? So any human would probably play rook f7 here. Rook d1 is a computerish move. What's the point? Anyway, he goes for probably to stop takes, and takes. But even then, the knight's there, so he can still do that. But okay, let's try to understand why rook d1. So after rook d1, what happens? Let's say black takes. Can he? Takes, takes, king takes. And now the idea is rook h5. Oh, that's the point. The knight is gone. Okay. So he goes for rook g6, and Abhimanyu goes for rook f7, rook c8, rook d7, rook comes to h6. Nice move because this rook is hanging if you take that. Rook g7, rook h3. The pawns are falling. So now it's only three pawns for the piece, but white's pieces are active. The king is in dire straits, but Gukesh survives. a4, and here Gukesh made the last mistake from where he couldn't recover. He went for knight. No, sorry, this was not the mistake. Knight d4, bishop c5. This was where he made the mistake. So basically, here, if he went for knight takes, it was fine. He had to go for this king takes, and now probably rook d8 and rook into c7, rook into. This would have led to an equal endgame. This was there for Gukesh, but he did not play knight takes bishop in this position. It must be a crucial moment, a crucial mistake, not taking the bishop. He went for counter attack, but the pieces are not yet there to create any problems for the king. Now, bishop c5, knight moves, and now the king becomes active. Knight moves to f4, bishop d4, rook f3, king moves, knight d3, king d2, and takes. But at the end of all this, it is still two pawns for the piece, and the knight is going to fall. So the piece is going to fall, which means it will be two pawns up for Abhimanyu. King moves and rook takes knight. Rook moves, rook d6. Now Abhimanyu has a nice pass pawn. He just needs an active king. King moves, rook moves. The desired king c2 will not work because of rook takes, and takes. So he's not able to bring his king to defend the b pawn. So the b pawn is gone. Rook moves, takes, king c1, rook h2, and the pawn starts pushing. King moves, rook check, again check, rook goes back, and rook g7. That g pawn is dangerous, and black is not able to put all his forces there because c pawn is also dangerous. Rook comes to c f2, king moves, the pawn runs. It's almost move 60 now. Rook moves, b5, takes, and pawn push. Rook check, king moves, and rook check, king moves, and it's over. Rook f8 is coming, and there is no way to stop it. So Gukesh resigned here, and it's the first win for Abhimanyu Mishra against Gukesh, derailing Gukesh's journey in the FIDE Grand Swiss.